Yo, 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 thanks for tuning in to the fourth episode of J Talks Crypto. And today we're going to be discussing what I call my Bitcoin pages analogy. But before I get into what the Bitcoin pages analogy is, I guess would like to explain why I came up with it in the first place. So, pretty much, I feel that Bitcoin has a nerd problem. In the sense that I'm not going to lie, this technology is very, very hard to explain to new people. And that's why guys like Andreas Antonopoulos spend pretty much their entire lives trying to, one, understand this technology and then explain it to people like me. Or people, not even people like me, because I'm not actually his target audience. His target audience is a little bit people that are a little bit more technical, but I do understand the content a little bit, and kind of like what I do for my day-to-day job is I kind of like write product descriptions and take kind of like more complicated concepts and break it down for people. So that's kind of what I want to try to do with Bitcoin, because it is very complicated, but it's also not that complicated. So, like I said, Bitcoin has a nerd problem. Usually, most of the time, when people first get into the space, they talk about what is Bitcoin, and then they hit you with it's a distributed ledger using blockchain technology, and then they try to explain to you the history of money and the properties of sound money and the fungibility, and they hit you with Aristotle and Byzantine generals and double spends, and you're just kind of like, bro, what is going on? This is so complicated. There's just you're hitting me with way too much. And this video is for those people. Or this video is to try to, and this entire analogy is just to try to boil Bitcoin down in a sentence if we can. I know that it's very, very difficult, but we as a community kind of need to do it, because we need to be able to explain it in a simple way that people can understand. So feel free to poke holes at this. It's not a perfect analogy. I will say that that's the point. Analogies aren't perfect. I will explain where the analogy breaks down later on, and why it's not perfect. And perhaps if people understand why it's not a perfect analogy, then they will then understand the underlying technology a little bit more. Because one of the problems with this is that we try to compare it to things that we already understand, and that's an inherently flawed way to go about this. It's kind of like when the internet first came up. There was a whole bunch of people that would say why does it matter if you can listen to the first broadcast live stream on the internet? Like, haven't you ever heard of a radio? And now, in hindsight, that looks extremely short-sighted. And that's I guess, I just want to open people's eyes a little bit more with this analogy. Now, one of the most important things that you need to wrap your head around with Bitcoin and the digital world, and when introducing people into this topic, is I think the most important thing is to just have them understand that the digital world is inherently different than the physical world. The digital world is not constrained by physical space. Now, here is a perfect example of that. I have a couple of USB flash drives and an SD card right here. Right? So, you don't really know what size any of this is. For all you know, this can hold a terabyte of data. This one holds about 128 gigabytes of data, and this one holds 16 gigabytes of data. But these two are the exact same size. This one is significantly thinner, and yet we have no problem all collectively deciding that it's okay that this one is smaller, but it holds more. So how does that relate to Bitcoin? So in trying to explain what Bitcoin is, like people try to oh, it's a blockchain, distributed ledger technology. You can't understand it in one go, and it's just like, y'all are nerds. It's not that complicated, guys. What is a ledger? It's an accounting book, right? Okay, like it's not that hard. It's not that complicated. What does distributed mean? It just means separated, right? So when people ask me like what Bitcoin is, like I just tell them it's a big ass digital book. It's just like a big digital book, and it's hosted in a whole bunch of different places. And what people do is they have copies of their books all over the world in their own hard drives, and that's pretty much what it is. It's a big digital book, and everyone has their own copy of it, and then they all just check their own copies of it, and they just cross check their own books. And and this analogy works in different ways too, because let's say you have a regular book, like it's a blockchain, right? We have this book. This is the manual for this microphone. And what can we do with this book? I can, this book right here says pages 2 and 3. I can take out this page, right? And I can essentially fold it into like a block. If I was like really good at origami, but I'm not. But I can take this and I can fold it into a block, right? And what is the thing that chains it together? I would just say it's the number on the page. It's really not that complicated. It's just nerds have a problem of thinking that they invented something that is like completely revolutionary, and it can't be expressed in regular terms, but it can. A blockchain is just like a book, and it has pages, and instead of they're chained together using like digital numbers. Now, one of the reasons why a book is a bad analogy to blockchains is that every good book has an ending, right? Theoretically speaking, a blockchain will never end. It will keep going, and that's one of the inherent differences. On top of that, on a book, books are generally speaking they're made out of paper, and if you were to try to build anything on top of paper, even if you take it and you fold it into like the most strong block, origami block, it's still a paper block. So you're not gonna get far. You're not gonna build anything on top of it, and that's kind of where the analogy breaks down, and that's where you run into the problem of applying real world stuff to real world elements to the digital plane. And that's what's cool about Bitcoin and just in general blockchain technology, because it's a lot more resistant than paper, and you can build stuff on top of it. And that's why you have a blockchain like Ethereum, which is a little bit more, it's a little bit less secure than Bitcoin, but it, because of that risk and that risk and security, it can do more advanced stuff, and you can build more complex stuff on top of that book or blockchain. So that's just kind of this analogy that I've been trying to piece together. But believe it or not, I've been working on this idea for a very very long time, and I just feel like I've explained it to some of my friends, and I have gotten that kind of like eureka moment where they're kind of like, oh, I that actually helped me understand it a little bit more. Um, One of the other things that I kind of try to throw out there as well, and kind of like honing in the book, the book analogy, is it kind of also works when you try to explain the double spend problem, for example, because so one of the reasons why Bitcoin even came about is because I guess you one of the thing, yeah, one of the reasons Bitcoin became a thing in the first place is just because Satoshi solved what's called the double spend problem. And you can read the Bitcoin white paper to understand his solution on it, but my really terrible synopsis on it is just like he was just kind of like, yo, you can't solve the double spend problem, so what you got to do is you got to rewrite the book every single time. And that's what happens when you transact with Bitcoin. You are essentially going back to the very first page, and you're rewriting the entire book to the last page. And then that's what everyone's doing every single time they transact in Bitcoin. They go, they take their book, they flip all the way to from the beginning to the end, and then they go on to the last page, and then that last Bitcoin that you just added is just like another page. And then like when someone else buys it, like it goes all the way to from the beginning of the book all the way to the end, and then it adds another page, and it adds another page, and it adds another page, and then it just goes on forever. And every single time when you hear about Bitcoin that has no downtime, it just keeps going, it just keeps going, it just keeps going. It's just because this book is just constantly being rewritten, and that's kind of what I mean when I say that this book has no end. And that's why they say like Bitcoin is going to be mined until the year past 2140, because the theory is that like if you wanted to really hone down kind of like what we're doing and really like drill this pages analogy home is in this book what we're doing is we're taking digital pages and we're securing these digital pages because we think that we're going to be able to build a lot of stuff with these digital pages. These digital pages are going to be assets because there's only 21 million pages of this book, and you don't need to purchase a whole page. You could purchase half a page. You could purchase a quarter of a page. And, it's like, it's very similar to a flash drive. If you can accept that this flash drive holds 128 gigabytes of data, you can understand that this flash drive can also hold 10 Bitcoin or 1 Bitcoin or half a Bitcoin. And the only difference is that instead of denominating it in gigabytes or megabytes, we just denominate it in BTC. So it's just like 1 BTC, 2 BTC, 10 BTC, 0.5 BTC. And yeah. So this is just a very long, complex topic. And really hope someone smarter than me, like Andreas Antonopoulos, listens to this because I know that they're just really caught up in thinking about it in ways that they already think about it in, and maybe if they had a fresh perspective from someone who does have a little bit of technical knowledge, but not as much as them, but understands kind of like the gaps between regular people and super duper techie people, then maybe we can have a conversation that helps bridge this together for everybody and helps it click a little bit more because I think it's really important. One of the next videos that I have coming out is based off what I believe is called the BIP39 encryption. I call it 12 to 24 words of power, your digital fingerprint. And I'm trying to explain essentially why seed phrases are so strong, so unique, so with this whole NFT craze, you're going to see why I call it 12 words of power. And because that's essentially that is what it is. It is 12 to 24 words of power, and no one's gonna guess it from you. And I'll break that down in a future video if you guys keep liking this content and keep supporting the channel. I like to do these kind of videos because I call this evergreen content. It doesn't matter if a Bitcoin is $1,000. It doesn't matter if it's 5,000. It doesn't matter if it's 60,000. It doesn't matter if it's 1,000,000. It doesn't matter. This video is probably going to be relevant. And that's what I love about Bitcoin because it doesn't ever change, believe it or not. The technology from today at 60K, 59K is not different than it was when it was at 10K. It's literally pretty much the same. Nothing's changed. We are the ones that change. Bitcoin kind of just changes the same. Yeah, Bitcoin kind of changes the same. Bitcoin is the one that stays the same. So anyway, this is J Talks Crypto signing off. This video's getting a little bit long, and thanks for subscribing. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe if you want to support the channel. We are still doing a B20 giveaway once we get to 20 subs. Comment on the video if you want on our B20 vid if you want to participate. And thanks again. J Talks Crypto signing off.